Hi, good evening, everybody. Nice to see you all across the country. We have down south, we have up north, and we have also from the neighborhood as well, from Eagle Park. Okay, good. Michael, you're driving, Michael?
I'm working.
You're driving?
Yeah, I'm at work right now.
Oh my God, I can't believe it. You're driving and listening to the shir, the class? Oh my God,
Yes, sir.
incredible. Just drive carefully, Michael. Drive carefully.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, nice to see you. Okay. So we'll get started. Continuing. And okay, let's move you guys over upstairs so we have room to see anything. Jonathan, you there? Jonathan.
Yeah, Rabbi here.
What's new? A long time no see.
Getting back.
How you feeling?
Baruch Hashem.
How was Shabbat? Nice?
Yes, Baruch Hashem. Very good. Thank you.
Very good. Baruch Hashem. Okay, very good. So we're like I think we're in the middle of the Bet Yosef somewhere. It says tell you, we'll start with the Rambam. It says V'harei Rambam katav. This is, I'll tell you where this is. This is, oh, that's a good question. Where are we? Something. Yeah, we're in Hay, yes, right, but it's like it's down more. There's another Rambam there. If you look for it, you'll see. The Hare Rambam. You see that one? The Hare Rambam. It's like in the middle somewhere. Got it? Yeah, let me help you. I'll try, If I can do it in a second, why not? Okay. Very good. Don't waste your time, you said, huh? Okay. That's so funny. Oh my God. Yeah. Third white line. Okay, here we go. Without further ado. So it says, he says the Rambam in the beginning of the first parak, Lashon Zeh, this is the language of the Rambam. Anaf sheosim ala kanaf. So he says the strings that we make on the corner of the beged, mimin ha-beged, has to be the same type as the beged itself, right? As we said, right? Same material. One nikrat tzitzit. Right? We call that tzitzit. Right? V'zeh anaf. One nikrat lavan. So it's called lavan. Why is it called lavan? Because it's white, right? That's why. Okay, as opposed to what? As opposed to the tchelet, right? Which is called the tchelet, right? Okay, whatever. So, which is blue. Right. So it says, why do we call it white? Because we're not commanded to color it. That's the reason why. We're not commanded. It's an option, Adkan, that's the end of the Rambam. The im kavanat Ram, so he says, if the intention of the Ram, that understood this author of the book, he said that you have to actually color them from the color of the talit itself. So in other words, we have the little bit discrepancy, right? The Rambam seems to say it's optional, to color it. This one seems to say it's obligation to do so, right? As we mentioned already last time. So how did this rabbi didn't reject the Rambam so quickly? In other words, what happened, right? The Rambam said we're not commanded to color it. This guy comes and says we are. Like what happened to you? What you strayed away from the Rambam? Right? So he says, I understand there's also an answer to that, the way to push it out. So it says there's a way to answer it up, he says. But anyway, he says, I want to say like this. We're not really obligated to understand the Rambam. That in this din, it should be for sure, lasot tzitzit mitzvah talit. You have to make the tzitzit the same color as the talit. So it says, nevertheless, the rabbi of the sefer, right, was not so particular. He didn't copy the Rambam and understand the Rambam properly. It says, because he said in his name, because he said in the name of the Rambam that it has to be that color. You know what I mean? Which is not really precise, right? As we said. So he said that he really should have explained it like this. That besides the fact that you have to have tchelet, right? That we know, right? You have to have tchelet. But what about the other strings, right? So he says because there is room to err in here. If you don't look inside the Rambam itself, there is room to err here. Right? Zal. Says now that we don't have tchelet, right? Wake up, guys, the ones who are wearing the fake tchelet, right? We don't have tchelet. Good morning. So he says, therefore, the person who makes talit today, which is color blue. The color talit is blue. Right? Yaseh kol tzitziot lavan. So therefore, what should he do? Make all tzitziot white. Right? So it's going to be blue talit with white fringes. Right? So, so he says, why shouldn't he do so the same thing if the talit is green or adom or red? That they should be all be white. So it says here we're going to agree with several of the authorities in poskim. So he says, right, the bottom line that we don't have to really have the color of the tzitzit be the same color as the talit. So I don't know who pushed him to explain like this. Ken Dibri Rambam, the way in the Rambam like this. Biot Divarav Mevoarim. So he says why? Because his words are actually very clear. The Rambam. Shekiven Lemash Katav Rabbeinu Bishmo, because he was intending to whatever the Rabbeinu wrote in his name, right? The Torah. Sheiru Haita Kavanato Kimo Shepiresh Bo Harav. If his intention was like the Rav that this rabbi explained on his car, this aforementioned rabbi, he should have first said like introduced a little bit here. He should have said like this. If the talit is all blue, right? Lavan shela mishar tzivonim. So then, right, the white part can be other colors. Lemash katav talit shei chula. He should have first said this. And then regarding that if the talit is all aduma, all red, or yeruka, or all green, you should make the white strings ken siv'ah. You should make the same color as the beged. Umash katav perek aleph shezeh anaf. So is that what you wrote in perek aleph? That this is the anaf, this strings nikra lavan. They're called lavan. Because we're not commanded to color them; they could stay white. For sure, we're not obligated to color it like this color tchelet, the kamar. That's what he meant to say. So it says all the other colors are called lavan. It's interesting, right? Way of understanding it. So he says the rabbi also felt this. Because of this, he wrote, he says, I'm aware that there's a way to push this out. But again, and to fix it, And since it's so, he says, יש לתמוע. It says there's a wonder. So then why is he going out of his way here, this rabbi, to differ with the Perush of Rabbeinu, which is the Tur, regarding the way he explained the Rambam. Since Rashi holds, Rashi also holds like that. So he says, because maybe the sugya of the Gemara, right, not to call them, and the poskim didn't write that. So he tried to make his words according to that perush. So he says, in any case, that which he said, that the person who wrote the book was not precise in saying בשם הרמב"ם, name Rambam, סתם, שצריך לעשות הציצית מצבע טלית, that you have to make the tzitzit, the color of the talit, שהבה לפרש, he should have explained this, זולת כשיהיה צבע טלית תכלת, except in the case where the color of the talit is blue, לעניות דעתי, so he says, my humble opinion, נראה שיפה דקדק, this was correct, his assessment over here. Bala Sefer, this author of the book. Rambam was only referring to a time where we have tchelet, you know. So if that's the case, people shouldn't think that he only put he didn't put any white, he only just put tchelet. So that's why he doesn't want you to make all of them blue. So it says, but nowadays, we don't have tchelet. And chiluk ben seva tchelet l'shar tzivonim. So there's no difference between tchelet and other colors because nobody's going to mistake that for tchelet. Everybody knows we don't have it, right? Except those dopey guys in the store. Right? They don't seem to know that, but everybody else seems to know. Right? So it says, right? Therefore, talit, which is totally tchelet, matila tzitziot tchelet. What you do is you can put tzitzit, which is tchelet, all of them. Right? Meaning what? Just the color tchelet, not the actual tchelet, right? V'shapir damet, that's fine, you know, you can do that because nobody's going to think it's real tchelet. So it says, on the contrary, you have to do so. Why? Because we need that the tzitziot should be the same color as the talit. According to this opinion, right? We don't pass it like that, but according to this opinion, that's the way. That's what comes out. That Tosfot tikshu al perush Rashi. So it says Tosfot asked on Rashi. Since we said over there in Gemara Lamed Chet Amud Bet, so he says, does the color really cause it? But the Shimon Mishum Ze Eri Vanvehu have it. So it says maybe it's just because you're beautifying it, you know, by coloring it. In other words, the Gemara asks, like, why do you have to make it the same color as the beged? What the color makes it kosher? What what kind of thing is that? Food coloring, you know, like what? You know what? Why do you need a color for? So he says, maybe it's just for beauty. That's what it is, you know, not because it makes it kosher, just to beautify it, you know, to make it look matching, you know, matching scheme there, right? Whatever, right? So he says that Avad answered a different way. So it seems from his words that he also holds. He also seems to hold that you have to talit. You have to make the tzitzit from talit, the color of talit. But samag. Katav the makshe the Gemara. He says that since they asked in the Gemara Amud Aleph, they asked regarding a sheet which is with tzitzit. Lo yela lavan. So there has to be. I'm sorry.
Sorry, mister. What about the sheet?
The sheet.
Oh, the sheet.
Right, like a bed sheet, you know. That's what I'm talking about. The sheet. Forget about the sheet now. So it says, right. Sariv v'tzitzit lo yelav lavan. It has to be white. The tzitzit over there. Yesh lilmod she'amatil tzitziot tziv'im b'talit. Because we can learn that because a person who puts colored tzitzit with talit lavan with a white talit en lachush. There's no problem. Mashma she'eno choshesh b'tzeva. So he not really concerned about what color you make it. Yod omer v'per katchelet. So he says in per katchelet midit siva garim. What does the color make it kosher? Rashi shepiresh gabe talit. Rashi explained. Regarding talit en poter ba ela mina, he said that only the type of the talit, the fabric, the same fabric, putters it. The mina tseva lo dak, but he didn't say the color. He just meant the type of fabric. Had kan leshono. The katvu agaot maimoniot. This was also written in this posek, the perek gimel. The katav rabbeinu agadol Maria Abuhav. So this says this rabbi שמצא בתשובת הרשב"א, he found the תשובה הרשב"א, שכתב על דין זה, and he wrote regarding this din, לא ראיתי לאחד מרבותיי שחששו לזה. He says, I never saw any of my rabbis who were makpid, right? You know what it means? To make the same color, tzitzit as a talit. Right, Cloud says we never saw that, right? So the Sfaradim, this is the shita of the Sfaradim. No, we don't have this custom to make it like that. וגם בתרומת הדשן, it says also תרומת הדשן, סימן מ"ו, כתב, דלא נהגינן העידנה משום מקום רק בציציות שהם לבנים. So he says, look what it says, תרומת הדשן. It says, now, the minhag is to make only white tzitzit, right? That's all, same thing as we do, right, today. But not tzivui, we don't make colored tzitzit today. Interesting. Even talit katan, show me minute tzivai. It could be several colors. But today they're all the same color, but except the stripes maybe, right? Minute tzivayim. לא ראיתי ממי שאחד שיהיה מצויץ רק בציציות לבן. Also, he says, talit katan, I never saw anything else but white. That's all I saw, right? Tzitzit was לבן. ולא צבוע, I never saw any colored stuff over there. That's what he says. This is the custom today, right? That's the way it is. רבנו הגדול מריה אבוהב כתב. So this rabbi wrote, בשם בעל העיטור, name of the בעל העיטור, שציציות של לבן קודמים לכל הצבעונים. Oh, look what it says, right? White is better than colored when it comes to tzitzit, according to this opinion, right? באיזה צבע שיהיה, הטלית, כשאמרו מין כנף, שיהיה הציצית מן הכנף. סתם, טליתות שלהם היו בלבנים. So you know why? Since it's סתם טלית, you know, is white, so tzitzit also will be white to match it, right? That's the idea. So why make it a different color? For what? What's the purpose of that? No? אבל אם אין לנו לבן, but if you don't have white, אז צריך שיהיה הציצית מצבע הטלית. So then, make it the color of the talit, right? In other words, you got two choices. Either white or the color of the talit. One or the other. Now we're getting closer to the halacha, the way the halacha is, right? כיוון שהרמב"ם ורש"י סוברים. But he says, nevertheless, since Rashi and Rambam hold, okay, שצריך שיהיה מצבע טלית, has to be color of talit, וגם התוספות והרעב"ד, נראה שאינם חולקים נכון להיזהר, so he says, therefore it's proper to be careful, the what, בדבר, וכן הייתי מדקדקים נוהגים לעשות את ציצית מצבע טלית. So he says, it's proper to do it that way. In other words, if you have a talit which is a different color, make the tzitzit also that color, you know, proper. Not an obligation, but proper. That's the conclusion over here. Interesting. Let's see the Shulchan Aruch. I don't remember him saying it this way, the Shulchan Aruch. Let's see what it says over there. So we're going to Shulchan Aruch Hey. Okay, interesting, very interesting.
Rabbi, it's not forbidden to color if you want to.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
It's not forbidden to color the same color of the
That's for sure. That's for sure. Some hold it's even an obligation, right?
And if you want to keep it white, there was also an opinion like that, even if the baguette is another color.
Yeah. So there were some poskim we saw that nowadays they make everything white. That's the custom today. It's minhag. Okay, so let's see how it says in Shulchan Aruch like paskins. Okay, we're almost done with the siman, by the way. So it says like this. You got yesh omrim, right? שצריך לעשות ציצית מצבע טלית. Some say you have to make it the color of a talit, right? Whatever it is, yellow, green, blue, whatever it may be, right? Red. The medaktekim nohagim can say. Look what it says, right? It says the ones who are medaktek, in other words, the machmirim, right? The ones who are, religious people, very devout, right? Or what do you want to call them, right? Devout Jews. They make it like that, right? Today, nobody does it, That's the truth. Maybe in those days, they used to do it. Today, every city is white. Except the fake tchelet that they have, right? Except that one, right?
However, they used to wear it, like
Yeah.
as regular clothing.
Yeah, it was more like a regular thing, yeah.
For us,
Because they used to have four-corner garments in those days, It was a regular thing in those days. In our times, it's almost non-existent, right? Extinction. Okay. It's an extinct species. So says the Rama, Ashkenazim, אין נוהגים לעשות ציצית רק לבנים. So Ashkenazim only make white, right? As we said, right? So today, you know what it is? Who controls all the tzitzit business? Ashkenazim. That's why it's all white. You got it now. It's all white. You know what I mean? They're the ones who control everything there. You know, they're the owners of all these. There are some also, maybe some Sephardi ones in Israel, but here in America, everything is Ashkenazi. You know, 100%. Mostly Hasidic, you know, Hasidic companies, you know, whatever, things like this. Yeah, whatever, you know. So that's the way it is. And says even if it's colored, custom is to make white. And that's the way it happens today. Right? So don't change it, he says. So here the Ashkenazim won, you know, because they control the business. So we got no choice. Which is okay, by the way, you know, not the end of the world. We're not losing, right? We're not losing anything.
Color in the base.
You know, anyway, all the talit, all the talitot today are white anyway. So what difference does it make? You know, it's all the same. We're fulfilling everybody's opinion. You know what I mean? So there's no problem with that. God bless them. God bless them all. Okay, good. So we're in agreement with that one. Let's go to Vav now. Back to the bit Yosef, probably. Yeah, we already read that one. We're going to skip that. Go down to Vav. You see where that is? So it says, Maran says, "Kasheli ala tama rishon." So he says, I have difficulty with the first opinion. Sharet talit shel meshi. So he says, because if you have a talit which is made out of silk, lo damel l'shotzim, it doesn't look like wool. They don't look the same. The old shenireh midivrei Rav, the talit shel shar meaning. So also it seems from the rabbi that when it comes to talit which is made out of other materials, the lo damel l'shotzim, they don't really resemble wool. Shar le'atil tzitzit shel pishtan. You can put the linen tzitzit. The Sefer Mitzvot, so it says Katan in this book, the Kolbo, כתוב מיהו נכון להיזהר שלא לעשות שום ציצית של פשטן. Oh, look what it says, right? We already said this before, last week, right? That it's proper to be stringent, not to make any tzitzit which is made out of linen, right? The Ashkenazim seem to be machmir about this. Today, nobody makes it, nobody buys it, it just doesn't, it's not in the market, you know? So nothing to talk about, really, right? Okay, so אפילו בטלית של משי, ומדקתנה אפילו משמע. So he says, even if it's a silk talit, they don't do it, right? Since it says afilu, even the bechol, I'm going to put this on silent. It's bothering us here. This tirade of text going on here. Okay, let's quiet this down. Monster.
Well, didn't we say that
Yeah.
Garment has to match the tzitzit, the material has to match? Like if it's silk, the garment is silk.
Right, so you got two choices, right? Either you put silk or you put one of those two, right? Linen or wool. They putter everything, as we said, right?
Yeah.
Jack of all trades, you know, it kills everything, it putters everything.
But then we say also one opinion that we shouldn't use.
Only linen, we said, but not wool, right? Wool you can use for anything,
Okay.
except with a linen talit, because it's sharpness. We said, right? Not to do that.
And there is no the hill itself is sharpness.
Right, exactly. So that's the way it goes. So now let's see what it says, right? So it says, so it says, since it says the word afilu even, that means that he's forbidding every kind of talit. The shel meshi lav dafka. It's not only silk, any other material as well, cotton, whatever it may be, right? Rabbeinu lo chashash lichtov. So it says Rabbeinu, the Tur, was not really he didn't bother to write this. Afilu mishum afilu, this word afilu. The mimela mashma, because it's mashma from there, it implies from there the im ita, the law, that what, even if you have other types of beged, other types of fabrics, the law asiran tzitzit shel pishtan b'shel meshi ela mishum dedamu letzemer. The only reason why we forbid this is because it resembles wool. In other words, he's telling you, right, that the silk resembles wool, so therefore we don't want to put linen because you may come to do it with wool. That's what we said last week also, you know, pretty similar to that. So you should have said, right, if that's the case, that it's proper to be careful not to make tzitzit out of wool, but talit shel tzemer, right, with a talit of tzemer of wool, cotton, or cannabis or canvas, mishum the damu l'shel pishtan, because it looks like pishtan, so you may come to mistake it with that. So why didn't they do that? You know, why didn't they forbid that also? That's the case. Right? They're concerned about shatnez, you know, as we said, right? So it's according to the second opinion. It says a second reason. Gam ken kasher shemachar shedim latam zeh. So it says it's difficult. Why? Because according to this reasoning, it seems like Rabbeinu holds a mechaber, the author of the book, that a sefer mitzvot katan. When it comes to this book, tzitzit shel pishtan poter betalit shel pishtan. The tzitzit, which is made out of linen, does exempt a talit made out of linen. Im ken lek le svarat haomer tzitzit shel pishtan eno makom min haTorah. So it doesn't really hold like that opinion that says that linen tzitzit doesn't have any place in the Torah. In other words, it's forbidden altogether. Begam lo svarat haomer, and also not the opinion that says dafal gav de medoraita matilim b'chachamim. Even though from the Torah, right, the rabbis were allowed to use linen for tzitzit. Chachamim asrua, but the rabbis forbade it. Sharei katav, because he wrote, "Shedai lanu sheniten makom lepishtan." It's enough that we should allow linen for linen. That's good enough, right? Not any more than that. The Alma, the Sfira is because you see from there that he holds that a sefer mitzvot katan, according to this book, od hayom tzitzit shel pishtan poter talit shel pishtan. Even this day, in our times, you can use linen tzitzit for linen beged. Ve'im ken, so as if so, al korchin tzarich lomar, we have to say the sfira that he holds the b'shar minim when it comes to other types of beged, other types of fabrics, levad by themselves, mitzemer, right, patar, that if it's like wool, paters medeoraita, if it's from the Torah, ukedirabba the darish kanaf mina kanaf, and like Rabbi who says, right, it has to be the same as the beged itself. Also from the rabbis, Nachman, like Rabbi Nachman, the patar shar minim metzitziot deoraita, that he really putters all the other fabrics from tzitzit altogether from the Torah. You can't say that they were forbidden regarding other fabrics, and only allowed with the linen. So it says, therefore, it seems to me, Maran says, Samak paskins kedat Rabbeinu Tam, like Rabbeinu Tam. What does that mean? Talit shel pishtim patur milatil bo tzitzit. Talit of linen doesn't require tzitzit at all. There you go. Lo mibaya mishel shar minim, right? I don't even tell you about other types of fabrics. They have lo patre shelo biminan, but they don't pater only except their type. The shel tzemer nami is also wool. Lo mishum, no, it doesn't require mishum to have a kilan because it's sharpness, as we said, right? You can't use that. Even if it's its own fabric, which is the linen, the patabe medina that really it putters it according to the Torah. Gazru bo chachamim. The rabbis were gozer mishum kesut laila. Why? Because you should because of night beged, right? In other words, pajama, whatever, something like that, right? V'zeu shekatav talit shel pishtin patur. That's what he wrote, right? That talit, which is made out of linen, is patur. It doesn't even require tzitzit. Avilu b'mino, even its own type of tzitzit. It's its own.
Why is it so, Rabbi?
Why is it?
So if it's
As we said, so he eliminated all. Eliminated all of them, right? He said we eliminated the other types because they don't putter. They only putter their own kinds. Wool we eliminated because of sharpness, right?
Yeah.
So what's left? Right? Only linen. That's all that's left. So that's the thing, right? So linen we don't use. So then it's nothing. Right? It's putter.
So is that
Yeah.
the rabbis because the rabbis forbid it, but
Right. Yeah. The rabbis puttered it. In other words, they puttered it because they may come to kasut laila. We're going to see what that means, right? What the reason is. That's what he wrote, that talit, which is made out of linen, is patu. Afilu b'mino, even in its own type. Mishum de mashma she'ena patur ala b'talit shel pishtan, because it's mashma that it implies that the ptor, right, which is the exemption, right? The exemption is only regarding talit, which is made out of linen. About tzitzit shel pishtin, but when it comes to tzitzit, which is made out of linen, poter b'shaminin, it does putter other types of fabrics. Kedino, like the din lechach katav. Therefore, he wrote miu nachon lizaher. So he said it's proper to be careful. Shelo la'asot tzitzit shel pishtan. Don't make tzitzit out of linen altogether. Afilu b'talit shel shaminin, even when it comes to other types of fabrics. Makat meshi So why do you take the word meshi, which is silk? Why do you use that example? To have a chat meinach mine, because it's one of those types, other types. It's just an example. The who adin the shar meaning, the same also applies to other types as well. The reason is because he's telling you, right? What's the reason? Because he's concerned. Maybe he's going to put tzitzit on a talit which is made out of linen. Okay. The girsat kolbo, in other words, he's going to make wool there. Maybe that's what he needs to say, right? The girsat kolbo, and it's the girsat kolbo. The text of his kolbo, titparesh gamken b'derech zo. That's the way you explain that also. The chevan she'achar shekatav talit shepitam patur. After he wrote the talit of which is made out of linen is patur, right? Afilu b'mino, even in its own kind. Katav tzenu pishtim potrin ben meminan ben shalom meminan. But then he wrote afterwards that wool and linen patur all types of beggars, right? As we already said, that doesn't contradict. Mashma behedia the apagav the talit shepishtan patur. That so it comes out from there. It's implied, right, that that even though talit shepishtan of linen is patur, mikom makom tzitzit shepishtan poter. When it comes to tzitzit of linen, it does pater b'sham meaning with other types of fabrics. Therefore, Rabbeinu Peretz said, "Shenachon lizaher shelo lasot shum tzitzit shel pishtan." Proper thing is not to make any tzitzit out of linen. Afilu b'talit shel meshi, even if its talit is silk. Mitama depreciate that they explain. So it's even though the geonim and Rabbeinu Tam asru lasot afilu tzitzit shel pishtan b'talit shel pishtin. They forbade even to make linen tzitzit with linen beged, right? The talit. Rashi Rabbi Yitzchak Alfasi. So he says Rashi in the Rif, he tiru, they're matir. The Rosh says agreed with that. So there you go, right? Big machloket over there regarding this. It says in Perkat Chelet Menachot Mem Amud Aleph. Tan Rabbanan says over there, right? The rabbi said, Sadin betzitzit bet shemai potrin. What about sadin, right? Which is the sheet. Does it require tzitzit? Bet shemai says it's patur. That doesn't require a sheet, right? I'm sorry. Yeah, but in those days, they used to wear like a sheet. Like they used to wrap themselves in a sheet. That's what he's talking about. But it's a sheet. But they use it for they still use in India. They wear sheets. Did you ever see that before? Yeah. They wear sheets. Yeah. The old-fashioned guys. I'm not talking about the modern guys, right? The modern Indians. I'm talking about the old-fashioned Indians, the good old ones, right? From the old school guys. So it says, Bet Hillel says patur. It's chayav. You have to put tzitzit. We pass like Bet Hillel, so it's chayav. Amar Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Tzadok. This rabbi said, "Ve'lo kol hamatil tchelet b'sideno Yerushalayim eno ela me'ametmihin." But it says, didn't they say right that anybody who puts tchelet on his sheet in Yerushalayim says they consider him like a weirdo, like a weird dude, Rashi. So Rashi explains, Bet shemai potrin, Bet shemai poters it. The Lord darshe simuchin the mishnah because they don't darshan the juxtaposition in the verses. The mishnah kilaim to matir kilaim with tzitzit. V'ha the nakat lashon patur. So why do they say patur? The chiyuv and the chiyuv, which is obligation. V'lo nakat lashon osrim. He didn't use the language of osrim that it's forbidden, matrin or permitted. Mishum the tzitzit chovahu lebeged, because tzitzit is an obligation for the beged, for the clothing, not for the man, right? Even if he's not wearing it. So he says the whole thing depends on this, the forbidden or permitted. Right? So according to Bet Shammai, it's patur. It's because it's kilaim, which is not in place of mitzvah. So you're transgressing kilaim, shatnez. In other words, according to Bet Shammai, there's a prohibition of shatnez over here. You know what I mean? When you do this. We don't pass like that, right? Again. Bet Hillel says that he's obligated to have tzitzit on the sheets, right? On the tchelet, right? Tchelet. Darshe simuchim, because they darshan, right, the juxtaposition of the verses. So therefore they darshan, right, that shatnez is mutar in that case. Understand? The en kan mishum kilaim, and therefore there's no kilaim there. Mutar lelovshan, but you're not to wear that. But talit shel tzemer, right? But if you have a talit which is made out of wool, the Bet Shammai, according to Bet Shammai, asur lasot ba lavan shel pishtan. You can't make white of linen, white linen. Yeah, utchelet shel tzemer, and just one tchelet of wool, right? As we said, right? The tchelet always has to be wool. So according to Bet Shammai, you can't do that. Why? Because it's shatnez. Can't do that. Right? Ela lavan tchelet shel tzemer. So what do? Right? You make the white and the tchelet tzemer of wool. So then why do you talk about dafka the issue of sheets? Why do you talk about regular talit? Right? Mishum the psikale milta the end of tzitzit below kilaim, because he holds that there's no tzitzit there without kilaim, without shatnez. Shika mitzvah tzitzit chelet ketiva be. So he says the main issue of tzitzit is chelet. Chelet amra and chelet is always wool. So he says mina matmihin, that he's making a wonder, making it right is looks weird. Matmiya et kol haroin, right? It looks weird in front of everybody when he does that. Shomrim kilaim hu labush. You know why? Because they say he's wearing kilaim, he's wearing shatnez. This is the reason why in Yerushalayim they didn't put chelet on sheets. Okay, kilaim hu labush ad Bet Hillel palig. So he's cholek on Bet Hillel, Rabbi Eliezer. And afterwards we say Amar Rabbi Imken Lama Aswa. Then why do they assert it, right? Rashi explains Imken the halacha like Bet Hillel. If the halacha is like Bet Hillel, then you're allowed to do shatnez. So then why didn't Yerushalayim have a problem with that? You know, what's the problem? What, Yerushalayim they go like Bet Shammai? No, for sure not, right? Lama Aswa Yerushalayim. But Shakir v'Tareh v'Talmud. So the Gemara deliberates about that over there. Talks about it. The Tama, the Milta, Vasof, Masik Rava. So in the end, they conclude like this. Rava concludes, all right, Shema Ikra Sadino, Betoch Shlosha, Vitpereno, V'Torah Amra Ta'aseh V'lo Min Asir. Ah, wow. So it says, they made us gezerah like this, not to wear these things on a sheet. Why? Because maybe the sheet will rip, okay, within 3 fachim of 3 fingers of the corner, right? And he'll sew it up, right? And the Torah said, make it, and not that it should be made from it. In other words, it has to be made after the beged is done. Not, in other words, if it rips, right? You know what it is? If the beged rips, okay, and the tzitzit is already on it, if you sew it up, okay, that tzitzit is not kosher. That's what he means to say. Because you're doing the wrong sequence, right? Wrong sequence. First, you got to have the beged and then put the tzitzit, right? Not put the tzitzit with the beged. You know what I mean? This is the problem. Okay, whatever.
But if the majority of the beged is still intact.
But the corner is the issue there. You know what I mean? The corner is where the tzitzit is, right? That's the whole thing. So, okay. So it says right away he took off his sheet, right? Rabbi Zera, Amar Gezerah Nami Mishum Kesut Laila. So he said also this is because of the Gezerah of night clothing. Rashi explains there. Shemay Krasadino, maybe he's going to rip his sheet, as we said, right? Kudem Lachen, beforehand, Betoch Shlosha, it's about 3 fingers, the Sfat of the Kanaf, to the corner of the beged, at the edge of the corner. That's the place of tzitzit, within 3 fingers of the edge. So then what he's going to do? He's going to sew it up with strings which are made out of flax, right, of linen. Then he's going to leave the strings tied, like hanging over there. Then he's going to put two strings of tchelet. So he's going to put them together, right? 2 white and 2 tchelet. The Torah said, you have to make it this way, right? The sequence. It's going to come out with the pasul. That's what's going to be shatnez according to this, right? Because it wasn't done the right way. Since it wasn't done the right way to do the mitzvah, therefore it's a prohibition of shatnez there. Right. So then it says, right, Rabbi Zera took off his took off his sheets. Hitir tzitziyotav misadino. So he says, you know what he did? He took off the tzitzit from a sheet. Not that he took off the sheet. He took off the tzitzit from the sheet. Shaya asher pishtan, because it was made out of linen. Oh.
Rabbi, those big rabbis, I mean, they know not to sew it up before taking off the tzitzit.
We're not talking about them. We're talking about regular people. You know what I mean?
Why did he take
Because
it
they
off?
wrote, because he said the halacha is not like that. You shouldn't have it. Understand? In other words, once they told him you shouldn't have it, and you look like a weirdo. He didn't want to look like a weirdo. You know what I mean? So he took it off. Not like the guys today. Today they don't care. They look like weirdos. They want to put on tchelet. They put it on anyway. They don't care. You know what I mean?
No, but
You have to care about that.
the only way he's gonna transgress is if it rips and then he sews it up.
Right. So the rabbis were concerned about that. You understand? In those days, by the way, today who sews up they throw it away in the garbage. But in those days they used to sew things up like that. That's the way it was. Even 100 years ago, by the way, it was like that. People would sew things up. They were not rich enough to buy every time a new one. And they didn't have so much money like that. Okay, whatever. So anyway, right? Right. So right. So he took it off because of this concern, right? Like Rava said, that maybe he's going to sew it up, so he took it off. Because of the night beged, what does that mean? Pajamas. Maybe he's going to cover himself with it at night. The patur mitzitzit, and it's going to be exempt from tzitzit at night. And comes out right that he's benefiting from shatnez, not at the time of the mitzvah, because it's night. You see, the rabbis thought everything, right? They think about everything, right? So it says in this parak, Shabbat Kaf Amud Bet. This is what we read in the Erev Shabbat, right? Itanami the Hay Baraita. There's also this Baraita is brought there. Gabe Had Amar regarding that which says over there, Hatam Shayu Talmidei Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Eli Mechavin Mimenu Kanfei Kesutam. So he says that the Talmidim of Rabbi Yehuda, they used to hide their talit. The fish who haya shone besadin betzitzit halacha kebet Hillel, because he used to pass like bet Hillel, so they would hide it. Why? Because he would tell them, why are you putting it on? Didn't we tell you? It shouldn't be on you, right? So they hold like the gezerah of the night beged. The gam sham piresh Rashi. Rashi explains over there. K'moshe piresh v'perek atchelet, like explained over there. So 1 second, let me just get this straight and make sure I got it straight. Right. Right. So it's just the opposite, right? That they used to hide because they weren't putting and he was putting. That's the reason why they hide. That's the reason. Okay, I didn't say it right. Okay, so let's go on. That Tosfot, Katvush Katav Rashi B'Tshuva, says Tosfot, right? That Rashi said in Tshuva, Shelo Gazu Ela Al Tchelet, that they only decreed on Tchelet, Aval B'Mino, when it comes to its own type, Chayav. Uveshmatin Haya Lahem Tzitzit Shel Mino. So it says in our lesson, they had Tzitzit, which is like the same type. Machbin Merab Yehuda. Oh, so it says that's the thing. They were using the same type as the beged, and they were hiding it from Rabbi Yehuda. Oh, he was saying God to tchelet over there, right? Right? And he thought they were doing it like Bet Shammai, Midoraita from the Torah. And they hold something else. Even according to Bet Hillel, assume it's forbidden for Rabbanan, as we said, right? Because you may come to make that mistake, as we said. Because of the night beged. The kasher. So it says difficult to read. The perek tchelet in this perek mehader leatuya the tzitzit chovat talit hu taliti. It says over there, right, that the tzitzit goes on the talit, the obligation. Gamay lo ma'ite mehacha. Right? Why don't they bring it from here? The lo katane osrin. It doesn't say they forbade. The od the behilchot halachot gedolot. Also in this book halachot gedolot posek the chovat gavrahu. Over there it says no, it's on the person, not on the beged. The obligation of tzitzit. Because that's how we bless mitatef, right? Meaning what? That it goes on you, The old Yaminan Bepek Kama de Yamot. It says over there also in Gemara Dal Amud Aleph Yamot. That people man de lo darish smuchin, even according to one who doesn't darshan, right? Juxtaposition one to the other. Be'alma in general, the Mishnah Torah, when it comes to the Sefer Dvarim, he does darshan, he does darish. So how could it be that Bet Shammai don't darshan? They don't learn the juxtaposition of the verses, right? Which is something which is universally accepted, basically. The Rab Amram is also Rab Amram, right? Which is one of the Geonim, I think. Pasak Bet Shammai, Pasak Bet Shammai, Shishat Dvarim with six things. Chashib Ach Chad Minayon. This is one of them. The Od Amai Nakat Sadin B'Tzitzit. And also, why do we talk about the sadin, the sheet with tzitzit? Habelan Minkat Kilaim B'Tzitzit. It should just talk about shatnez with tzitzit. And here the Rabbeinu Tam seems like Rabbeinu Tam. The Kuli Ama Tosfot saying, right? Darshe Smuchin. That everybody says that there is juxtaposition of the verses. Bet Shammai Patre. And Bet Shammai Paters it, he exempts it Midrabanan from the rabbis, Mishum Kasut Laila, because of the night beged. Or Mishum Shemai Kra, or maybe he's going to rip, as we said. Patre. And they're going to write, and they're Mimino. So therefore they patered it even from its own type. Midikatane Sadin Betzitzit. Why? Because as we said, right, that Velo Katane Sadin Betchelet. Right. So it says right that Sadin is tzitzit. In other words, we don't even put tzitzit on it, even its own type, right? And not tchelet only. But Hillel machayavin, but Bet Hillel is obligating afilu tchelet delet even tchelet. Why? Delet lehu gzerat the Bet Shammai, because they don't hold the gzerat Bet Shammai. The Bet Shammai kaimalan. So it says we hold like Bet Shammai. The muchach the sefer, like it says in the end, comes out in the end. The ach braita of this braita. The Omer Rabbeinu Tam says Rabbeinu Tam. Then asot taritot shel pishtan. Look what it says, right? You shouldn't make tarit of pishtan of linen, but asot both tzitzit that makes tzitzit on it. Again, right? We see the same problem, recurring, right, with the Ashkenazi Rishonim, right? Coming back again, right? Afilu mino, even its own type. The Bet Shammai kaimen on, because we hold like Bet Shammai. The patre, they hold on pishtan on linen, it's patu altogether. So therefore, it says if you bless on that, it's a blessing in vain. Oh, so it says these two rabbis, Pasku Ketiv Rabbeinu Tam, they pass like Rabbeinu Tam. Katav Ran, so the Ran writes Berek Mameh Madikin, right over there in this Gemara and Shabbat. Sheken Data Raza, Raza also holds like this, right? You know who this is? Rab Zerachia Halevi. The Katav Rosh B'Tshuva, it says the Rosh in Tshuva in a response. Klal Bet. Shaken Nohagim be'Ashkenaz, Tzarfat. Look what it says, right? Again, Ashkenaz, Tzarfat, France, right? The Ashkenazi countries. Germany. Shelo la'asot talit shel pishtan. They don't make talit out of linen. Again, right? Katav Agur, shafilu mibeged shel ne'orav pishtan im tzemer. Even if you have a beged which is mixed with linen and wool, tzemer, I'm sorry, not wool, tzemer gif and cotton, right? Linen and cotton. And also in talit, we don't make talit like that. Mordechai behalchot tzitzit, but it says the Mordechai laws of tzitzit katav b'shem Rabbeinu Shimshon. He wrote the name Rabbeinu Shimshon. Sheniret dochek perush Rabbeinu Tam. That it seems like he's forcing the perush of Rabbeinu Tam. Demenala lebadot hachazera milibenu. How do we know, right, to make such a gezerah like this, a decree, just to make up some decree like this? She'eno mino atu she'eno mino. But if he's going to do its own type, make him to do a different type. The old Rova Geonim Pasku b'Tshuvot was also most of the Geonim Paskin in the responses. The Share Le'atir Pishtan, you can put with linen its own type, right, which is linen. So it's a big machloket regarding the linen, right? We have a big issue here with that. So therefore it says, therefore we should pass it like Rashi. The Bet Shammai potrin mishum kilaim. The Bet Shammai putters the linen because of kilaim, because of shatnez. So therefore, you can put its own kind, no problem, right? The Afshar the Sarah Kirabi, maybe the whole like Rabbi, the Amar Sham Rabbi Nasi, Hatchelet ve'Alavan me'akrin zed zed. The Tchelet and Lavan, one holds back the other. In other words, you have one without the other. We don't pass it like that. So therefore, since there's no Tchelet, there's also no Lavan. In other words, when it comes to linen, you don't have one, so you don't have the other either. It's a package deal, according to this opinion. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So it's a whole big story over here, right? We'll do 5 more minutes. So it says, so it says, so it says it's good that he took the language of exempting the patria afilu mimina, because they patra it even from its own type, right? As we said, with linen. The hide the katina yesh domar, and that was this katina, this whole story there, whatever. Mem aleph amud aleph. Yesh domar the sabar kirabi. We hold that he holds like Rabbi the Nasi. Upatur afilu mimina. Therefore, it's patur even from its own kind. Since you cannot put tchelet there, that's the problem. Rabbi Zera, Rabbi Svirale, if he holds like Rabbi Nasi, lo hitil ba afilu mina, he wouldn't even put its own kind. The Rabbanan, and if he holds like Rabbanan, shara tchelet, then kedel leatil bat mina, he took off the tchelet and only put its own type. This is why he used the language of sadin, right? The sheets, tzitzit. But don't nakat tchelet. They didn't talk about tchelet tapka, the sadin with sadin. The Ashta lo tzrichin lefaresh kede piresh hakontros. Now we don't have to explain, like it says like the Rashi, the tzitzit choba talit, that the tzitzit is obligation of talit. The tema lomar the Rab Katina is svor kerabi. So it says it's a wonder to say that Rab Katina is going to hold like Rabbi. Then alacha kerabi, because we don't pass like Rabbi. From his opponents, right? Multiple opponents. All the more so from his rabbis. So it says this rabbi also, right? It's coming, force by force. The old matzati the sifri. So it says also I found the sifri kesutacha prat the sadin. That when so this is sifri is like a midrash, halachic midrash. So look what it says over there, right? Darshan's like this. Kesutcha, your beged, it says in the pasuk, right? It comes to exclude a sheet. In other words, a sheet is not a beged. So in other words, you see from there that the verse comes to exclude the sheet. According to this opinion, it's a drasha. Berat Sadin, the Shalti the Rabbi says, I asked Rabbi, Gamali the asmachtahi. So this asmachta, what does that mean? The rabbis made this, this decree. It wasn't really from the Torah. In other words, they use this verse. They use this verse to exempt the this type of situation. That's what they did. What does that mean? They exempted the sheet. The Arosh b'ilchot tzitzit. So it says the Rosh in laws of tzitzit. Katav called the divrei Rashi, the Tosfot. He wrote all Rashi and Tosfot. The Rosh. He brought all this stuff. He brought the Balaitu. Shkatav b'shem Rabbeinu Hai. They wrote the name Rabbeinu Hai, which is one of the Geonim. Shemeolam lo haya echad מהגאונים שהורה להטיל חוטי kitna beglima. So he says there was never one any of the Geonim that commanded whatever the paskin that to put cotton strings beglima on a cloak, the kitna of cotton cloak. So it says the one who I'm sorry, yeah. So kitna I guess means not cotton. It means linen. Yeah, right, linen. So again, right. So he said that none of the Geonim ever said to put linen on linen. So it says, and the one who does it, is transgressing the word this pasuk. So what does that mean? Is transgressing? Right. In other words, he's making a blessing in vain. That's what he means to say. If he blesses on this, because it's not obligated to do tzitzit. Ve'arif katav ba'id ve'aidna. So it says. So says the Rif. Ve'aidna. Nowadays he says the letlan tchelet again. Right. He also holds. We don't have tchelet, right? We don't have tchelet. V'amina la sadin tzitzit mimine. So therefore he says, what do? We put on a sadin on a sheet. That's how he paskins, right? In its own type, right? Whatever it is, may be, right? The sheet made out of cotton, right? Whatever it is, right? So that's fine. He says no problem. Because we said, right, that they asked the question, can tzitzit made out of linen pater wool, right? Tashma comes in here and says, said this rabbi, that he holds that wool does pater linen. Chutei pishtan potrim b'shel tzemer, and the other way around as well. Chutei tzemer pishtin potrim b'chol makom. So it says, as we said right before, that wool and linen pater in every case, in every situation. Now, if you know b'shinayin, even something which is like leftovers, whatever they call that, right? Those worn out stuff. Hal lamata dechutei pishtan. So you see from there that the strings made out of pishtan, tzitzit potrim b'shol pishtan. They do pater the linen. So as we also learn from this, Rabbi whoever puts tchelet on his sheet on Yerushalayim, it looks weird. And we explain the reason, because they were not expert. So there they give a different explanation of why they made this gezerah. It's over there, kala ilan, which is like indigo, because they put indigo. Rakshinan lo yeh ela lavan. So they said, okay, so make it white. Tomar teha tzemer lavan poter b'shtan b'pishtim. Okay, I guess we'll stop here. We'll reread this again one more time. So I'll start next time with Yama Rabbi Eliezer, right? We'll start with there because it's going to take a long time to finish this. It's still a long way to go. Long way to go. Okay, so Chazak Baruch, thanks for coming, everybody. It was a little fast tonight, whatever, but we had to go through it because there's a lot of material to cover. So it was maybe a little bit confusing, but we're not done with it yet, So we got to finish it off, and then it'll be more clear. Everything will be more clarified. Okay, nice to have you. Later, tov, everybody. Good night. See you tomorrow, hopefully, with Hashem, and sleep well. Get some rest. Thanks for coming. Okay.
In any case, it's not relevant to us anymore.
Yeah, it's an ocean of material, really. It's an ocean.